Hey y'all, welcome back to the Root Cause Podcast, where we focus on the soul, the science, and the stories shaping the future of farming. I'm Callie, and today I'm joined by a couple of familiar voices, but also a new face. Be sure to subscribe, drop us a rating, and share this episode with a friend who needs to hear it. The more we grow this community, the more truths we can uncover. So let's get into it. Today with me, I have Caleb Dinwiddie and Josh Thurman, who we all know and love sometimes. And then we have a new face with us, Bryan Peterson. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
I live in Gallatin, Tennessee, or Cottontown, depending upon what you want to claim. I moved here about 10 years ago after playing baseball professionally for 10 years, 7 with the Marlins, a year with the Rangers, a year with the Milwaukee Brewers, and then I played in Mexico for a winter as well. And then before that, I was born and raised in California. Went to school at UC Irvine, studied criminology, law, and society, and that's pretty much it for my upbringing. But around here nowadays, run a pasture-raised meat business, so we sell chicken, pork, beef, and turkey to basically all of the lower 48 states, and then row crop a little bit, and I also do some organic inspections.
Okay, so let's go back. How did you get from the MLB to Tennessee, Kentucky line and organic farming?
Well, yeah. In playing baseball, I played baseball my whole life, and so we work out and train pretty much every day. And so I just felt like one of the missing links in that, and to get like a leg up on the competition, was to also watch what you were eating, and that led me down the path to figure out like where food was coming from. And so about 2 years before quote unquote retirement, I just started looking at like farming practices, a lot of like the smaller like homesteady type things with like Joel Salatin and all of the people that basically have gotten behind that and whatnot. And so I just started reading and watching YouTube videos, and then put a finger on a map dot at a farm in Gallatin, and now I'm here.
So is that how you learned all your knowledge? You just studied it on your own? Did you do any courses, anything like that?
Over the course of time with the meat business, I learned that like being profitable farming was really becoming a marketing expert, not like a farming expert. So I've taken some classes in that to look into building websites and having like email, those annoying emails that you get every week from a company, like stuff like that. But no, I mean, I didn't know that many people when I first moved out here. And so I had to call a buddy because I had bought a tractor off of a neighbor, and I didn't know how to drive tractors. So I drove him there, dropped him off. And then I was like, hey, can you take this back to the house? And it's hydrostatic, so it just has forward and reverse, but I still didn't know how to, anyways. I get up the next morning, I'm like tickled to death, and so I get out there and I was like, I'm gonna do some mowing, and like there's a 6-foot bush hog there and a 35 horsepower tractor there, and I'm like, that thing needs to get onto that thing somehow, and I don't know how that's gonna happen. So I was like, it's like, I don't know. I mean, I would love to see like my history of YouTube searches. It's like how to hook up a tractor, and I think it was PTO. And it's like, this guy's like, hey, it's really easy, and you just do this. I was like, okay. And like the coupler won't, and I'm like banging on things.
And the rust.
Yeah, I figured it out.
You better be careful.
So Bryan, tell us this. I mean, so you moved here from the MLB. You've been here 10 years-ish,
Mm-hmm.
10 years-ish.
Yeah.
And because just think, Josh, if me and you were in the freeway in California, I mean, the PTO was a little bit of a problem for him. Right. But the freeway would be a big problem for us.
Oh man, yeah, I'd go lay down.
I mean, so it's so you really have an open view of both experiences, urban life, and then out here in the country. It's a real unique perspective, isn't it?
Yeah. So I was like, I'm very fortunate because for the 10 years that I spent playing professionally, and a little bit like with college too. I mean, I was in a different city every 3 days for 10 years. So, like my home base is basically like when I got signed out of UC Irvine in California, we played in the College World Series that year. So we were in Omaha, Nebraska. And then when I got back, it was like you had a couple days off, and then I was shipped to Jamestown, New York, and then from there it was Greensboro, North Carolina, Jupiter, Florida, Jacksonville, Florida, Raleigh. Then it went to New Orleans. Then it went to Miami. Then it went to Austin, Texas. Then it went to Colorado Springs. So like those were like my homes.
Yeah.
And then other than that, it was a different city every 3 days. So
Yeah.
But if you look at it, for us, farming it's a binary thing. If you've been raised in agriculture, you either farm or you do not. For you, coming from where you did, it's not like there's a whole world outside of farming. You know what I mean? Like there's a whole world that exists. It's our ontological truth. This is what we do. It's what we know. It's the only thing that we've been raised in, and it consumes us. Like you either farm or you do not. So, for you, where you come from, growing up on the mean streets of Cali, I guess when you're growing up in California, farming is 1,000 miles from nowhere for you. So, what is the different perspective? Starting, okay, so you had, like we talking about perspective. What is the perspective now before the outside looking in, and now that you're ingrained in it? Are you still beholden to the truths that you were before you started farming? Or now is it like this insider's perspective? Or now that you're inside, do you see, quote unquote, how irreparably broken that it is? Do you get what I'm saying? I went the long way around that.
there was a question in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Maybe like 3, actually.
Yeah.
So now that you're inside
No, I
farming.
got it. I got it. You don't have to repeat the ontologicalness of it.
So before you do that,
Yeah.
you met him a couple, 3 months ago. Are you impressed with his vocabulary like
No.
some of us? You're not? Okay.
No,
Yeah.
because only he understands the words that he's using, and I don't know if they're made up or not. We spent
I swear.
8 hours in a truck to go into Indiana, and he used the word veritable like 17 times, and I thought he was talking about veritable rate planning. And he's like, there's a veritable swamp. I was like, this is a made-up word. It's not real.
But you looked it up and it was real.
No, I just believed you.
I swear, some of them can't be real.
They're
All
all
right.
real.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So it's a really tough question to unpack because like I was an idiot.
Yeah, but let's unpack it though. It's
Yeah,
worth
no,
it.
I'm unpacking. I was an idiot. Like when it's like the thing that comes to my mind is when people are like, oh, like all of our bread has Roundup in it. I'm like, well, that could or could not be true depending upon if I desiccated it with Roundup. But like I didn't know what desiccated meant, and I don't even really know if I knew like when and where Roundup was even being used. So like there was probably some preconceived notions before I got into it, and then those have changed because I know that like the practices are different. But the idea of like where farming it still doesn't make any sense to me. Not from a financial standpoint, but from a systems approach. Like it's the only group of businessmen and women that just don't pay attention to business.
Yep, because the first thing you think about that wheat is what's in it. The first thing I think about is the wrapper costs more than the wheat in that loaf of bread. The marketing costs 20 times more than the wheat in that bread or whatever the numbers are. Yeah, that's the first thing I go to.
Yeah.
First thing you go to is how did it get in that sack?
Yeah. And I mean, everybody thought, rightfully so, that like I was pretty dumb. Like when I was like, oh, I'm just going to start farming. And I think some people took offense to it because it's like this guy just thinks he can come in here and like farm. And I don't really take no for an answer very well. So I was like, I'm just going to try to figure it out. But everybody was like, it's really expensive. You're going to go broke, selling cows to the livestock yard, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, well, then we're not going to do that. So we're just going to try to cut out every single middleman like in that process and just go straight to the consumer because I'm trying to collect all of the margin on the way to their doorstep. So that's the only way that I can make it happen. And to your point, the 35-year-old mom with 2 kids and a husband that works 50 hours a week, she's trying to feed her family good quality, clean food. So that's what I'm trying to produce because that's my end market. It's not necessarily the same for everybody in ag.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I think it was the first time we met at Josh's thingy. He had said something, or somebody had said something about that you thought all farming was organic farming. So how did that, when you got into the farming world, how did that change?
That it changed when I started doing organic inspections. Like actually, like for the way the organic program works is kind of complicated, but basically you have the federal government, and then you have a state or private certifier, and then you have a bunch of like employees underneath that, but nobody's technically attached to anybody, but they all kind of like work in unison. So there's a list of like, I think it's like 76 pages. It's 7 CFR 205. It's the code of regulations for farming, and the actual like certified organic program is way different than what I thought organic farming was when I first started. And then I didn't realize how non-organic farming perspectives were actually out there. Because it just doesn't, like if I'm a person that's like eating food, and I'm not saying this isn't a conversation about herbicides or whether or not they're good or bad, but side means it kills something. So I personally don't want that like on my loaf. It's like a little bit of bologna, some cheese, and like a slice of glyphosate, and it's like we'll just eat that. It's like I would just prefer to keep that out if we could. So that's the perspective that I came from.
So tell me, how did you get into the organic side of things? Like you said, you were looking at the codes and this and that. Like how are you running your operations to fit that narrative?
So for the record, the farm is not certified organic because the only reason really is because the break in the chain there is that once my animal goes to a processor, if that processor is not certified organic, then the cow loses its status basically. So it's a business decision. It's not financially like responsible, I guess you could say, for me to be certified. I'd just be throwing money at, to the government and say, here, you have a label. So, but
Talk about the support that or the pushback. So your family thought you were a little crazy putting up the baseball bat and getting out the chopping hoe?
I think my family knew I was crazy at like age 4 or 3.
Okay. So you've always been a
weird.
Yeah.
Oddball.
Yeah.
So
Jack of all trades, master of none. That's what my nana used to call
What are the overlapping tenets, though? Because that's so it's cool when we talk all the time, is that the way that you break things down in your baseball mind and your baseball intellect and transpose those to agriculture. I mean, now I don't know how you can talk about that, but I think that's a real advantage for you. Like, hey, it's kind of like baseball, you got this situation, that equals that. So how has that helped you either in the business of it or in the farming aspect of it?
It's almost like your, I don't know what the saying is. It's like your greatest attribute is it's also your worst, because like I get bored very easily, and I love new things, and I love like the systems approach to new things. So like before, like when I first got here, I worked for the fire department. Before that, I worked for a landscaping company. After that, I went to work as an organic inspector. So like there's all these like different facets, and when you can realize that life is really just a collection of like everything in your whole entire life, like boiled down into like one thought process, then like that's the thought process that I take with everything that I do. So like I can't compartmentalize like farming. Today I'm just going to farm and we're going to do this because that's what they taught me. It's like when they give you a prescriptive program for wheat before the seed's in the ground, that makes zero sense to me, because there's always something that's going to happen. That's what baseball teaches you. So
situational awareness.
Yeah, shout out to Coach Berge, because that's what he always used to say. But yeah, I mean, like, I don't...
and you're right, though. We are some of our parts. We're a book, not a page. And that's reductionist thought, I guess, is what you would say, is because we are everything that we've ever have been.
Yeah.
Just not all at the same time.
Yeah, you can catch a little bit of everything from something.
So I've come in with a lot of biases.
Yeah.
And that you didn't come to the table with. And so you might go down the path. I mean, it was an interesting story, Josh, when he first told us about you started farming the neighbors.
Oh, yeah.
And the treating of why do your seed come with treatment on them? And I guess for our viewers too, we also want to say, here I am trying to be a commercial farmer, truckload lots, and you're trying to feed a wife and 2 kids. We really have 2 different objectives. And the middle ground here is where Josh comes into play with his big words and teach me better and teach you better too.
Yeah, so there's... You want to say something?
Well, I was just going to say, what exists for us are presuppositions, these things that we hold as true enough that we had to do. It's the treating of the seed. It's like what you talked about when we met. Somebody come out there and told you what you were going to do to your wheat 7 months before any of the problems existed.
Yeah, and so just fix the problem.
Exactly. It allows him to look at things through a natural lens. And unless we go out there and think about that and really think about that, it's hard for us to see that. It's hard for us to see what's the intent here. Like, if I'm not standing here, what does this look like? If I'm not in the way, what should be going on right here? And I think that's what gives you a leg up. And I think that's because he's unburdened by not knowing.
Yeah.
Yeah. He didn't know.
But you know now. I mean, I don't mean that as a detriment. I mean, you were unburdened by having you didn't have any presuppositions.
No, I don't take that. I don't take that offensively at all, because that's what you're told your whole life. If you're like a 12-year-old kid and it's like, hey, what do you want to do for a living? You're like, I want to play professional baseball. And they're like, oh, okay, good luck. And it's like, yeah. And then you're just like, well, yeah, give me about 10 years and, I'll come back to you. So it's the same thing. Like with farm, like I don't mind telling the story that like I didn't know how to hook up a PTO. Like that I was 7 years into, like, we'll call it like livestock farming. And I went to help out my neighbor, and then we're planting corn seed, and corn seed's purple. And I was like, I'm 7 years into farming. And I was like, why is this not yellow? He's like, what do you mean? I was like, the corn's yellow. Why is the seed purple? He's like, oh, there's a treatment on it. And I was like, And then you look at the bag, and there's like the corn logo, and then you have the little pharmaceutical logo that's like right above it. I was like, I get my aspirin from them. So yeah, I don't know. I think the point of that was like, it does not bother me if you like laugh or think I'm like not ignorant, but like,
but that's
stupid,
the whole problem.
Because like I'm just laughing internally, because it's like, yeah.
But that's why all of us four are sitting here, because we run out of things to laugh at. Now the joke's on us.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, it is.
No,
the joke's on us now, because we're at the end of our ropes, and this allows you to be paces and lengths ahead of those.
Yeah,
of those that were laughing at you now, because they have nowhere close to the understanding. I've met, excluding like the people we talked to, John, I've met no one with the think path or the thought path that you're on, and the things that you are able to approach on understanding, especially from a farmer's perspective, through a farmer's lens. There's people that can't talk the talk that you do, and you've done it for 7 years.
Yeah.
But it's because you didn't know that's the only way it made sense to learn for you.
Yeah.
And all we've been told was by a dude on a tractor that if a crow's on the ground, it's going to rain in 48 hours.
Check the percentage.
That's where we're at, and that's why we're in the shoes that we're in.
So we come from the science of it, which may not, it's veritable, and then you're coming from the nature of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And they're both real parts.
Yeah, and I think that's like because I mean, to be fair, like I call it the crunchy side, which is the organic side. Like, I mean, I've had conversations with people about like herbicides, and it's just like they're like a hard no. Like they can't tell me, I can't tell them anything, and it's like what's really sad actually is to see like what you were talking about earlier, like the difference between like the crunchy people and then the commercial farmer, because there's a middle ground there that nobody's talking about, because again, it's like farming. So anytime you talk about a practice, everybody takes it personal, and it's like, it's not personal, dude. I'm just trying to make an ROI.
Dogmatic, man.
It's all it is dogma, and there's no room for I don't have any place for dogma in my life. Like,
no, I agree. I mean, I don't think anybody in a fundamentalist nature of anything can progress anything.
Yeah.
Because it's not binary. It's not bam or bam. I mean, you just said it earlier, it's a systems, It's a systems. And I think the way that you've come into this allows you to see a clearer path to finding a better system. Because I'm not saying that it exists in absolutes.
It doesn't.
Yes, exactly, because it's not dogmatic. Mm-hmm. But you can find a clearer path. Like if someone told you that you don't need 165 pounds of N and 80 pounds of phosphate and 60 pounds of K2O, you wouldn't argue with you, but yeah, I might not. Let me look into it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, is it a challenge? Like
that's what I'm saying.
Because that's if
somebody told you that, you go, no, man, or not now, but years ago, no, we got to have that.
If I was talked to how farmers get talked to, like when trying to think of like a picture, like okay, if I was facing like a Aroldis Chapman, my manager, like this is like the farming perspective. My manager would look at me and be like, hey, just don't even worry about swinging. You're not going to get a hit. It's like, hey, what? I just already know what's going to happen. Just don't even worry about it. It's like, okay. But like, that's not the way that, you have a fighting chance on everything. It's like David and Goliath. So that's kind of the way I felt like when I got into ag, because I was like, man, this is so great. And then nobody listens to me. So it's like,
how much help did you receive from neighbors or how?
Zero. Well, I shouldn't say zero.
That's what I was going to say.
Like intellectual help, not a lot.
I don't think anybody would be surprised by that because nobody likes to see some. I mean, can you speak? I mean, nobody wants to see this guy starting up. Like, there's two reasons for that. You're scared as hell that they might succeed. That's the worst thing. That success.
Competition.
Excuse me.
Man.
Yeah.
You know, and the second thing is he might take a. You know how that conversation goes, rent or whatnot. But the fact that you're able to start's amazing to me anyway. Just because when I asked that question. The unwillingness of people to lend a helping hand in this, man, it's pretty damn spiteful at times.
Well, just to think, to come off a major league career with that to farming, I mean, that'd be. Yeah, I can see. I bet your family really did push. To say, okay, now you did make it to the major leagues. You wasn't supposed to.
Hoss Cats lost it.
But this whole farming thing, you're really stepping out there now. So
yeah,
it's I mean, yeah, tons of respect for even trying. I mean, it's.
What was the first oh shit moment you had in farming?
I'll get back to you on that. I'll have to think of well, what do you mean by that?
Like oh, this could have gone differently.
Oh, like when I
Have you been injured farming?
That's a better question.
My baseball injuries come back to haunt me. So like I had knee surgery last June, July, and I was like bending down to like work on a skid steer that I might or might not have gotten stuck in a ditch trying to clean out like rock from the storm that came in, and my knee just popped, and I was like, So I called Andy and I was like, I'm gonna have to have surgery. And she goes, how do you know? And I was like, because I've done this before. So, I mean, like between like my,
but no flipped over skid steers.
No.
Okay.
I've been pretty fortunate.
Good.
As far as like,
because it's very dangerous.
No, so that's where the poop moment. This is my fault because I shouldn't have been spreading Lyme in the first place, but I didn't know what I didn't know, so I was just paying attention to the soil test from 1962 that the UT Extension Office gave me, and so went and got a Lyme buggy. Is that a fertilizer buggy?
Yeah,
a buggy from I think it was a co-op, and I was like, man, this is great. So I put it behind the tractor, and I'm a couple years, like maybe a year or two into farming.
Now, did they ask you a lot of questions?
Like, have I ever done this before?
Yeah.
They should have.
They didn't. They just let you have this Lyme buggy.
Dude, check it out. He's done a lot. Look it up.
Worst decision of that. Luckily, I was like, at least I took care of like insurance. But anyway, so I hooked this thing up, and to this day, I don't even really know like what to even call it. But like, on like your 3-point hitch, like they have like the drawbar that has like a bunch of holes in it.
Yeah.
Well, I thought that's where the Lyme buggy went, not to the actual drawbar. So I put it on the 3-point, and it's like, there's a chain there. I was like, what's this chain for? So I just put the chain on the thing. So I don't, like, the home farm is not flat. So like, I'm going up this hill. It's great. I look back and it's like, where's the buggy? Dude, the buggy is going directly towards Pops' truck. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's either the ditch or the truck. Luckily, the buggy took the ditch. That was kind of expensive to fix. But
So you hooked it up to the drawbar next time?
yeah, and I didn't use the safety chain. So, and then, but I will say now that like you're into like bigger like row crop stuff, like equipment, I feel like I'd take a little bit more time to. I'm more safe now. Trust me.
It would just be.
You learned your lesson.
Yeah.
It
You
would
don't
be
know what you don't
something
know.
to put the three of us, in that urban setting in California, watch us fail.
You should take me to LA and see what happens.
Oh my gosh. No, we would need a bodyguard or something. I don't know. You might like it.
I don't think so.
We went to Colorado not long ago, and it was pure shell shock. And that was just Denver. It wasn't, it was different, but it wasn't that, like, California.
We got to get you on a surfboard. That would be good for
I
you.
surf on the lake.
No. Yeah, nobody surfs on a lake.
I agree with what you're saying. It's not surfing.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
We'll go to the Gulf of Mexico and do that.
Yeah, we can-
Wave's not big enough.
Yeah, start you off on the.
All right, Callie, you better get us back.
Get on track.
Sorry.
Okay, so how did y'all meet? Like, what is y'all's love story?
Wow.
Not love story.
I'll tell you what it was. That's why I fell in love with Petey here. His wife, who's like, everybody knows Annie. Fiance, rather. I'm sorry.
I think by the time this drops, we got 12
Wi-Fi.
days.
It's going to be
12 days.
Wi-Fi.
We're
You're
getting
getting married?
Earth Day.
Okay.
Yep.
So
That is so former of you.
She was on, I think you were at the beach,
Yeah,
man.
we were in Florida on the beach, and I was
This
reading.
dude had Albrecht's booked on calcium on the beach. I was like, I need to talk to this guy.
There's only like 0.05% of people in the world that probably know who William Albrecht was or was.
But Okay, if you've read, it's not like
But
Mr. William there, just a
right.
great read anyway.
It's a super dry, like
Yes.
PhD type thing that you're not. Nobody. I don't think anybody's ever read that on the beach, especially that.
That's what I was like. And she commented, and she said, "Y'all should get together," and we have, and she's probably regretted it ever since.
I think she has. Yeah. Yeah. I took him on a breakfast date to Milo's in Portland.
He said a guy walked in the overalls. I said, "Why does this guy have overalls
Yeah.
on?"
He sat down and he was like, "Hey man, what do you think about?" I was like, "Oh, okay, I wasn't ready for that."
Yeah.
Yeah, but I figured it out.
Yeah.
I'm
I
a
mean,
lot.
it is. So you studied criminal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it was either going to be like, well, I think at that point, like law enforcement was still somewhat, but it was either that or like law.
Yeah.
And
But to be fair, I don't know. I mean, maybe now they're starting to propagate up. I don't know that you can go to school to learn the things the way that we learn them and want to understand them, because the people that we ask questions to, what are they telling us at this point now? They're like, I don't know.
yeah, I think that might be independent studies. I mean, it's good to go get your, your degree and whatnot, but
Shout out to higher education.
yeah, well, yeah.
No.
Yep.
So, Josh, what is something that Bryan has brought to your attention, or just with his not knowing, what is something he has taught you that you've never thought of before?
First thing, it's exciting to me because we can geek out on the phone for hours at a time. That's a good. I mean, it's the way that he's taught me that there's more than one way to get the same solution. Because a lot of times we talk, but we end up at the same thing, but we end up there differently, down those different paths. And what he's also taught me is on the research side of things and how to go about things and find about the intellectual honesty of probably labels is something that I can really lean on him about. He's taught me more about that in 3 weeks than I've learned in a lifetime, if I'm being honest. I mean, it's pretty impressive, his breadth of knowledge on AIs, actives, where they come from, and how they work together. I mean, it's quite impressive.
Well, I feel like that's why I asked him earlier, because I went and got my undergrad in business and a minor in entrepreneurship, and I'm getting my MBA. So I did not go for agronomy or anything like that. And yet you came out of MLB and you know more than the average farmer does. So it's like, how did you learn that depth of knowledge just on your own?
Okay. So my buddy and I, he lives in Paducah, and he played, I think we played together for one spring training, but he was a baseball player as well. I'll answer your question, and if I forget it, just ask it again. But our thing is that, like, everybody's always like, "Oh, you used to play baseball." It's like, yeah, like, man, I played in high school. It's like, well, that's great. And then you just let them talk, that's fine. But then because of like working out and training, you sometimes look a little different than everybody else. And so guys will come up and be like, "Hey man, what are you eating, or what are you like, what's your workout routine? Because I want to look like you, or I want to hit a ball like you." And like jokingly we say like, "Okay, well, go back in time about 17 years and eat chicken, rice, and broccoli, work out every day, and train for 60 hours a week. And then 17 years later, you'll get your answer." And so that's my answer about farming too. So like for 10 years, and I don't think it's subsided. It's like any free moment of any like of time that I have, it's either listening to something. Like the earbud invention was like great, because like I could read a book while driving a tractor or doing something else. And so for me, productivity went up. But it was, I mean, I can't tell you how much stuff I've like read, watched, listened to, gone to see people. I'll talk to anybody. I'll talk to like a homeless guy on the street corner, because he probably has something to learn from too. So like I just have a robust curiosity, and I just run with it, I guess. I don't know.
And
Yeah.
he has a memory too. So you're like him. You retain all of that hard reading.
It starts to make weird sense though, because like
Yes.
you can't like pigeonhole nature, and nature is not going to allow itself to be like, we're 100% no-till, or it's 100% of nothing. It's homeostasis, so it's always trying to get back into balance. And once you like start to see the precursors or the results of things, you can kind of like, I'm not saying predict, but get pretty good at like understanding of like where nature wants to go with it.
Yeah, unpack that. I'm a little deeper.
Thought I just did.
No, but keep talking about that, because what you said, it needs to be expounded upon and not in brevity. We do things. We do things in absolutes, as if nature exists in an absolute, and that's what you're getting at.
If you have a copper deficiency, what do? You put on copper. It's like,
But
could be true, or it could not be true. I don't know.
And that's what he's saying. Like in that moment, yeah, you may have, but I don't know what happened 16 hours later, much less a week later.
Yeah.
You don't know. We go out there and we treat these things. And that's, to your point, the question you asked me is what I've learned about him too, is like, nature does not exist in absolutes, and we like to treat it as so. So we don't know anything. We may approach on understanding a few things, but to what we talked about the other day, it's when you start approaching upon understanding, the Legos start to fit together a little bit better.
Yeah.
That's what we talked about. Like I think you asked how I saw this working. In my mind, how it made sense or something. We were talking. I told you it was Legos.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah.
Told you it was Legos. It's like stacking Legos and finding those pieces that can hold together. It's not always complete, but you can build it from there. And in this natural system of things, we like to treat it like we're God. Let's call it what
Autonomy.
it is.
Yeah. It's not, yeah. It's not.
Yeah, we like to treat it like we're God, like we are the absolute truth. We have the absolute power. We have divinity. It's it's
kind of like me when I was planting 25% of my corn 2 weeks ago in the best conditions ever, and then we get 11 inches of rain.
Yeah, there you go.
Untouchable.
Sorry,
I got told,
sorry about that. Yeah.
I got told this early on in my baseball career, and I really think that it applies to everything in life. And there's two types of people in this world: those who are humble and those who are about to be humble. Because baseball was a game of failure. So if you hit 300 in your career and you're in the big leagues for 10 years, you're probably a Hall of Famer, which means that you got out 7 times and you succeeded 3. So I think I've always I grew up from a point of like gratitude and humility, and knew that I always didn't have the answer. And then it was a team sport. So like if you didn't do your part that night, somebody had to pick you up. So it was never like singling stuff out, or it was not one thing of this.
Yeah, that's a great point. So winning in baseball is only hitting the ball 3 times.
That's it.
And missing 7 out of 10 tries.
Yeah.
And that's yeah.
Well, think about the preposterous amount of ego it takes to think that we can farm. Just think about it. You ever thought about it in that lens?
No, but I understand what you're saying. Because I don't know
how self-righteous that endeavor is. And thank God we're doing it, because we're eating and we're all here. But think about the amount of ego it takes. I'm going to do this, and it's not going to do that. You'll get damned pretty quick and humbled pretty quick if you're going to tell nature what it's not going to do.
Yep.
And I'll be wrong about this, but I think we eat like 30 acres of pizza a day
Really?
in this country. So how that's,
We need to plant pizza.
that's pretty crazy. How do we do that?
That's 30 acres.
Of pizza.
Wow.
Across the whole U.S.
Google it. It's something like
Is that
that.
Googleable? Is that the word you use?
Googleable. That's a word, I think.
You said it yesterday.
So it's a daunting task, and you're right. We are pretty because if we go to the grocery store, most of the time everything we're looking for is there.
Yeah. It's that's so tough.
Oh.
Because that's the other side of the business that I have. It's like I was sharing some messages the other day with him, and it's like people just don't know. Like they hey, I want to get a whole cow. Okay, great. You fill out this cut sheet, and it's like all filet mignon, and I'm like, there's going to be some roast in there and some ground beef. Like the whole cow's not a filet. So they don't.
Bless it.
Yeah, they just don't you just don't know. And I guess maybe me coming from that side of it too, I was like, I probably would have said that 15 years ago. So it's like it's all good.
Maybe that's why people like me don't go to LA, so I don't get humbled as much.
That could be. Not stepping out of your comfort zone is going to prevent you from doing that. Yeah.
But you're correct. People don't know what they don't know. So all roads lead home if you allow them. You're not sitting here by accident.
No.
You're not. I feel like you're sitting right where you want to be.
Yeah, it's intentional.
Yeah.
I hope. All I can take care of, that's another baseball thing where they say control what you can control. So I can't control variables. I can only control how I react to them, or how I train for them, or how I prepare for them. And we always got told too that pressure is a choice. It's not like you can't describe or feel pressure. It's like an emotional feeling. So I don't know. You just do the best you can. And you put your head on the pillow at night. And
it's a privilege too,
because
if you have pressure, somebody's relying on you. That definitely is a privilege.
Yeah.
So, what do you think going forth from your perspective and the way that you see things through your cognitive framework? Where do you see the fate of ag right now?
Depends if people want to change or not. They're either going to change or they're going to be forced to be changed.
What is it, Caleb? You say people change because of what?
inspiration, desperation. One has just more follow through.
Yeah. I mean, and I don't, obviously, like, that question can't be answered. Like, nobody knows the answer to that question.
That's your perspective, though.
Yeah. But, like, I just think that, that COVID changed a lot of things. People are getting more conscious of their food and, like, where it's coming from. In my opinion, they're at least willing to pay a little bit more of an elevated price point for things. And, man, it's 2025, and we've already been to the moon. So, like, there's corn, beans, and wheat. Like, there's a lot more stuff I feel like we can grow. There's a lot more markets that I think we can tap into, but it's going to take time. It's going to take some people making some, paradigm shifts. Is that a good word?
It's a great word.
Thank you.
I think the one thing in farming that we're going to learn quicker, and I've learned this since meeting you, Callie, Caleb, Nicole, Alex, Luke, the whole team, Taylor. And you start putting the right people, and you start putting your trust in the right people, things happen at a rate and a rapidity that you're probably not going to be prepared for. But I think that's what we've got to start doing in agriculture, is start relying on
relationships,
on the right relationships. Because the other side of that coin is there's plenty of people out there who's taking advantage of relationships in this business.
Yeah, I think especially down south versus other areas is the fact that farmers around here are not likely to help the farmer down the road. Like you were talking about your experience. And it's very much like me versus you. Well, farming is one, like agriculture is one side of things, and they're trying to feed the world. So I feel like that needs to become more of a team before we even try to go anywhere else.
It sounds to me like farmers need to get out of their state and like go somewhere else for a little bit. Because like I just think of that as like competition. Like if we were playing like in a playoff game, baseball is such a small world. Like you're probably playing against a buddy. But like for those 3 hours, I didn't like my buddy.
Yeah.
And I was just trying to beat him. And then after that, go get some pizza.
So you're trying to come up with a Hug a Farmer Day?
Well, no, I'm just saying like when you're in the field and stuff, like, yeah, you can compete against each other. But like why is there so much like disconnect?
Why are you wanting them to fail? That kind of thing.
But that's exactly right, because competition becomes, again, in farming, a binary thing: success and failure, and it shouldn't be that way.
Yeah. Well, the success of things in farming sometimes it goes unseen. Like my statistics are public record, but like your APH might not be, or like what your bank account might not be. So it's like if you just literally if farmers get to hide behind what they get to hide behind because it's not out there. So like if we're talking, it's like, hey, what was your first, corn crop? It was 220. Like, no, it wasn't. Like I grew 100 bushel corn the first time I grew it. It was also on 27 units of N, and I didn't know any better. So I still feel like it was all right.
You were converting.
Yeah. But I don't know. There's a lot of ego.
Maybe we need to change what the metric of success is, and we talk about it all day long,
Go take a business class.
You can make, people don't like to hear it, but it's a true statement. You can make yield and not be a good farmer. It's not hard. You can do it. I've seen it done 1,000 times.
1,000?
Yes.
That's a hyperbole.
It's not a hyperbolic statement.
Okay.
I've seen it. Maybe not 1,000, maybe like 800. There's a lot but my point is.
Yeah, get back to the point.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
What if we've got to propagate them up. What if success was nutrient density? Like, what if and I have some GMO and non-GMO tests I send off at the end of the year to see what makes a bushel, not guessing at it, then. That's what we need to measure our success on, is what this nutrient density is and where we're getting our yield from, and then get rewarded from our measurement of success on the new measurement of success. If you can grow higher quality food with more quality protein or nutrient density or higher quality starch, whatever we're talking here, you should get rewarded on that, not just in terms of bushels. Then we can change the level of success. Then the competition becomes healthy for everyone.
So you're talking about soil health, which equates all the way up the chain to human health.
Exactly. That's what I'm getting
And I
at.
think that's what Bryan has equated. In this first time I met him, I got that vibe from somebody, and I think it was Bryan. So the decline of our human health is really gone just in tandem with our soil health decline.
Yeah, they're correlated.
Yeah, 100%, man. I'm sure there's a nice little overlaying graph there that what would it be when you start seeing, you talked about it maybe on the first or second podcast, people only farmed for what they could feed their cattle and their animals,
Yeah.
When they started doing production of that for human food, bet you could overlay a graph starting at that point that starts going that way, moving that way.
Yeah, because I mean, they were here. The corn was raised to feed the pig, and to fuel the mule.
That's it, man. Fuel the.
They only grew enough.
You just made a bumper sticker about corn.
Yeah, fuel the mule. There we go. But I mean, it's true. I mean, the cotton was the big staple here. It was the cash king crop, So.
And now, how many people grow cotton around here?
Yeah, it's slim and slimmer. We
should just grow more corn.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, let's farm our way out of it, right?
And then complain about the price.
Yeah.
But you got to do something when you got all this outlay.
Yeah, that's that middle ground that we talk. I mean, that's like
it's planting 30 acres of pizza.
Yeah. And just selling all of it in one day. Yeah. So I mean, that's amazing, though. I mean, I think about that kind of thing some. How do we get everybody? How do people not get sick off of some of that pizza? I mean, maybe a percentage do.
But that's how money's made, focusing on that one thought, because there'll be a solution at the end of that thought somewhere. Yeah. It'll lead to something prosperous.
Yeah. I mean, that's way off topic. But anyway, yeah. So Bryan, though, he really, I mean, he makes you think different, doesn't he, Josh?
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I'm very thankful and grateful for the relationship.
And I will say that probably the weirdest thing I think about Bryan is what you said, his innate ability to just take those labels and read those big words and dissect them down to something that I've purchased a lot of, but I don't really know why.
People they're very receptive to you calling them. Like, I feel like if I call, they're like, "Nah, we don't want to talk to you."
It's because they can't understand you.
Josh, your words scare a lot of people in a good way. Like, it makes you sound smart, but a lot of people don't want to talk to somebody that's going to challenge their knowledge. And I'm not saying that he's not.
I don't know what to think about this right now.
Like, somebody would ask, like, "Hey, what does that cost?" And you're like, "Okay, given the scenario and the context of the situation at hand, if the forces that be from the galactical enterprise, came down, what would be the fortuitous price of the?" And you're just like, "How much does it cost?" Yeah, that.
8.
Yeah, everybody. Falls asleep.
Yeah. Like, here's the point, and then here's you. Like, but you get there. It's just a lot of words.
You got to go through a lot of things in here to get to where you're going.
So, Callie, what else is on our list that we want to be sure and talk about? I mean, it's a privilege to have Mr. Peterson in here in the podcast studio, and man, just hopeful that podcast is growing. We're getting subscribers, and we need more. And
we kind of touched on it earlier. We were talking about how Caleb was born into it. You were raised up in it, and he wasn't, and so he has that outsider look coming in. And I think it's a good thing, and I think a lot of people do. I think the older generation might not. But Caleb, for you, what is something that he's brought to the table that's like challenged what you're doing, like challenging your practices?
His ability to shop. He's a shopper. I mean, he can just deduce what you're buying, and we're just buying it because that's where we always bought it.
I mean, that's what we were doing 10 minutes before this started. We're sitting there, and he's breaking down what you're buying right now.
When he says, "Wait a minute, let me get back with you," he's figured it out.
Yeah. So it's we got to be smart shoppers. Retailers have got to make money. We need local retailers. Mm-hmm. We all fit in this puzzle.
Yeah.
and there's space for all of us.
That's the point. What's the value? It's to your point that you were talking about the other day. If we can get these farmers to crop plan earnestly, truthfully, then you could save a lot of money, couldn't you?
Yeah, and if you could get them to come together, you'd save all of the money.
Enough money that you might have a margin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's really what we need.
I mean, just think, like, I don't know.
Shut up. What would it, like a percent? Let's just say across the board, 15% farmer could save? Just through your thought paths and the things that you work on?
Yeah, I think it's higher than that.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, you just think how many hands have touched, and it's not just ag products. Like, it could be any product, really. Like, how many hands does it touch before it gets to the end consumer? And then, like, and you have your levels of, like, retail shops, or if there's a dealer or distributor or manufacturer, somebody that does both, whatever. But, like, how many of those things are really needed, and how many things are just like, well, nobody really knows what this is, so we can just add another hand, and then, charge another 20%, and then we made another salary. But then now the farmer's paying, 20 to 40% more than what he should be. So,
Yep. So I guess that's the big thing. He buys food, but he's also, you took that and you went to the beginning of where that bologna came from, whatever you're eating. You skipped all that and started at the bottom and built it back to where your plate is.
yeah, I think a lot of that probably came from the organic inspections too, and you really start seeing supply chains and whatnot. But like, I mean, I don't know. A good example is like FedEx and UPS. It's pretty transparent. Like, you don't really have any other company out there that does, like, I'm going to say residential, like, boxes. And then all of a sudden Amazon comes out, and then, like, they basically that's what I'm talking about doing, is that, like, Amazon created a company, and then all of a sudden they're like, well, we're shipping more than these guys are. And now they have their own shipping company. Because you get to a level in a purchasing power that's like, well, we're not buying, a couple of boxes, we're buying a bunch. And in our industry, like in the meat business or whatever, we just call it vertical integration. Like, you don't have, like, it's either a chicken house, a beef feedlot, a hog house, and then from that you have like layers and broilers, or with hogs you have sows, you have finishers. Everything's compartmentalized and distributed around the country like that. And we're just saying we're going to just try to take everything and have it in one spot, and then start building stackable enterprises on each other. So it's like, if you start shipping like millions of boxes a year, like, maybe you should look into buying a box manufacturing plant, and then the tape, and then the gel packs or the dry ice that goes in it. Or you should maybe you need to buy like 200 pounds of dry ice, but you only need 100. It's like, well, then you go knock on your neighbor's door that does the same thing you do and be like, hey, can you use 100 pounds? He's like, yeah, great. It's going to be 10% cheaper than, what you were buying from before. So it's just stacking things.
Another level, another devil.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's not like there's not a lot of work involved, and like a lot of like brain capacity, I guess. And that's why you technically you would have employees for that or whatever. But sometimes you just have to do it yourself. I don't know.
So do you run your farm and everything by yourself?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So how many, like, what's your operation like? What all do you do?
So I should step back. There are certain things that as the farm has grown, we have found it better to go and source it from basically like-minded individuals. So, for instance, last year was the first year that we didn't raise broilers, which is like meat chicken. We got hooked up with a couple of college graduates that were basically on the same platform that we were doing it. So it's like daily moves in a basically like a 20 by 10 or 20 by 20 carport with non-GMO feed, and we know where the chicks come from, and so so we partner now with farms like that. But to answer your question, like the size of of what we process, or how many animals are on the farm, or
I don't know, like the animals.
Like a day-to-day, right?
Yeah, like what's your normal life like?
Yeah.
Oh, man, I don't know.
Okay, now we don't have a lot of time.
Yeah, we don't have like 30 more minutes or nothing.
Yeah. I would just say that, I mean, you get your systems down and you get more efficient with the process. And then there's also going back to the middle ground of things, where it's like, I grew up on, you had to move cows every 24 hours. And I moved cows every 24 hours for 5 years. And I was like, why am I moving them every 24 hours? Like, I'd like to go on a vacation or something like that. So then you look at paddock size or where they're at, and it's like, well, it could be a 3-day move, it could be a 7-day move, it could be a 1-day move. But it was much more intense when I started as opposed to now. But like, chickens get moved every day. Hogs get moved every 7 to 14 days. Turkeys are kind of the same way. It's 3 days to 5-day move, just to new areas of the pasture. And that's what, if you farm on 50 acres, that turns 50 into 150 because of like the rest and the rotation. And I couldn't afford to buy a 200-acre farm, so I had to make 50 acres work with what we were doing. And yeah, you just do that.
Yeah, you just said that there's dogma in practices, but practices shouldn't be dogmatic.
Right, and even the practices that you're doing shouldn't be dogmatic. Because like I would say that I'm probably guilty of some things that I said back when I was first starting. It's like, oh, you don't move your cows every day, you're ruining your grass. And it's like, yeah, well, just got back from Florida too, and I'm tan, so I was like, yeah, that's a good point. I probably should do that. So, and honestly, it was one of my best friends, Thomas Fairfax Landstreet Jr. III. He came.
Full name.
Facts is what we call him. He came at the perfect time. I wouldn't be where I was at today without him. He came like, I'm going to say a month or two before COVID, and then just basically stayed on the farm for 2 years. And he was one of the persons that kind of challenged me, because like he was like what I was, 5 years ago. So like we were doing stuff and he would ask questions, and then he would get me thinking like, maybe that isn't the best way that we should do things. And so, practices always kind of evolve. And as long as, again, you're on like the right heading or the right path, like you'll get there, and you surround yourself with good people, and then life works out, I think.
All right. One more question. What was the biggest struggle that you ran into that you just weren't expecting?
Meeting people like Thurman.
I'm trying to think. There's so many struggles. Keeping the emotional side and the rightful pride that you have in the product that you manufacture, and then getting negative feedback for it. So like I tell people, like, we sell grass-fed beef, and it's not for everybody. Like if you like, Wagyu prime plus like, ribeyes with, a bunch of intramuscular fat, then like you should go source that, because that's not going to be our ribeyes. So it's really being able to like to take that and say like, hey, it's okay. Like these people aren't like specifically criticizing the way that like I farm. They just didn't like the product that much, which is totally fine. They can go to a different farm. There's a bunch of farms in the area now. It's funny because there wasn't a bunch of farms when I started, but there's a lot of people that sell direct to consumer, and maybe you like their meat better than ours, and that's great. I'm never going to be able to feed the world. I can't even feed the county. I could probably barely feed our street. So there's room for a lot of players in this game, and being able to take criticism from people that don't know what farming is like, you just have to get used to that. And that was really hard, because you just
Take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or two. Sometimes you needed 2 grains, but yeah. And now, like, I don't know, you can laugh about it now, but it's hard. Like you're out there for.
It's like getting an error.
Yeah.
I get that.
I mean, you're working.
He's an analogy man.
Yeah,
he's just like that, man.
You're working 60 to 80 hours a week, like not making any money when you're first starting out, and like you're just trying to do the best you can and trying to raise like a good product for people, and they're like,
"You're trying to kill me."
Ground beef wasn't fatty enough, and then the next person comes in, there's too much fat in the ground beef. I'm like, okay. Well,
and you also find out that the only thing that people want is not what they have.
Correct.
Yep.
You're up against that.
Mm-hmm.
Always.
And they don't know. Yeah, the general public doesn't know what it takes to raise a cow, or or anything really.
They don't know. They don't know where their food comes from and what it takes to get it to their
bridge
plate.
that gap, man. That's what we need to do. That's what we're doing.
We joke, like, people would come in like carrying like a can of Coke, and I don't have anything against Coke, but it was like they're asking about like our practices and whether or not the product was healthy, and I'm like staring at this Coke can. I'm like, yeah, it's pretty healthy. I mean, we do pretty good stuff. But
it's better than that Coke you're holding.
Yeah.
Lack of intellectual honesty,
Yeah. I just tell people to grow a garden, and then we can have a conversation.
I like that.
Yeah.
John Prine it.
Yeah. Throw away everything, blow up your TV.
That's it.
Plant a peach tree, and you'll be fine.
Well, Bryan, I appreciate you sharing.
Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah. We're going to end on the peach tree note. That's for sure. Well, I want to thank y'all for coming. Josh and Caleb, thank you as always. And it was great to sit down and get to hear your backstory and see how you've developed over the years.
I appreciate y'all having me.
Big thanks to my guest and to you for tuning in to another episode of Root Cause. If you learned something new, send this to a buddy, tag us on socials, or just leave a comment telling us what your biggest takeaway was. We would love to hear from you. And don't forget, we drop new episodes every other week, so hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming next.